The silence wasn't accidental. It was strategic. For 5 long years, the internet whispered about the missing years, the erased chapters, the unexplained leaps, the glossy lifestyle that never matched the paycheck. For 5 years, questions were mocked, buried, laughed off as conspiracy. And every time someone asked how a cable TV actress vaulted straight into royal history, the answer was always the same. A fairy tale. Luck, love. But fairy tales don't come with red ledgers. And tonight, that fairy tale burns to the ground because something has surfaced from behind concrete walls, razor wire, and federal silence. Something handwritten, deliberate, and never meant to be forgiven. A prison diary. Allegedly written by inmate 09913-004, a woman the world assumed was broken, silenced, erased. She wasn't silent. She was writing, according to leaked claims circulating from within the federal prison system, a handwritten diary exists, smuggled out through encrypted scans, and inside it, one name appears again and again with terrifying frequency. Not once, not twice, 12 times. Dates, flight windows, locations, and a place so radioactive it makes governments tremble. Little St. James, the island everyone pretends not to remember. The diary does not say maybe. It does not say possibly. It lists entries, calm, methodical, almost bored, allegedly documenting 12 separate visits between 2013 and 2016. 12. You can spin bad press. You can spin family drama. You can spin wardrobe scandals and personality clashes. But you cannot spin 12 alleged trips to the epicenter of a global trafficking network. And that's why panic has allegedly detonated from Montecito to Buckingham Palace. Because this isn't a blind item. This isn't a rumor passed around a forum. This is being framed, allegedly, as a ledger written by the woman who held the keys to the operation. And here's the part they're most afraid of. The diary doesn't just list names. It allegedly lists photos, not cloud files, not iPhones, not something that can be wiped with a lawyer's letter. Polaroids, physical, chemical, permanent. The diary reportedly describes an envelope marked with a single initial stored in a private safe seized during federal raids but never publicly inventoried. Inside, images allegedly showing a young actress on terraces aboard private aircraft beside men whose names would collapse institutions if spoken aloud. That's why this story isn't about scandal. It's about compromise. Because if those photos exist, it means the British monarchy didn't just welcome an outsider, it welcomed a liability into the bloodline. A woman allegedly tied to the most dangerous blackmail network in modern history. And suddenly, the questions that were once rude start making sense. The unexplained wealth, the designer wardrobe before the fame, the private travel with no visible funding source, the elite connections that made no professional sense. The diary allegedly reframes everything. Those years weren't missing. They were active. The London clubs, the Toronto dinners, the private memberships. According to the claims outlined in the diary, these weren't social spaces, they were waiting rooms, vetting zones, filtering systems, places where ambition was tested, polished, and directed. And the island? That was the main stage. The diary allegedly categorizes people clinically: users, facilitators, assets, recruiters. And chillingly, the name at the center is described not as a victim, but as ambitious, adaptable, eager, a climber, someone who allegedly didn't see the network as a trap, but as a ladder. And climb she did, right into the bed of a prince, which reframes everything. Because the diary doesn't just talk about the island. It allegedly mentions Prince Harry not as a participant but as a target, a way in. If these claims are true, then the romance wasn't fate. It was strategy. Watch the reactions carefully. Watch who stays silent. Watch who suddenly steps back. Because people who understand what 12 visits mean don't rush to defend. They distance themselves. The narrative shifts instantly. This is no longer about a woman fleeing an institution. It becomes about a woman running from her own past, a past allegedly written in prison ink and smuggled into the public domain. And this is only the beginning, because next comes the timeline, the overlaps, the contradictions, the moments where social media says Toronto while flight records allegedly say Caribbean. The digital alibi starts to crack. The fairy tale starts bleeding. And once dates are laid side by side, once aliases are examined, once photographs are described in detail, there is no PR firm powerful enough to put this back in the box. This diary doesn't scream. It documents. And documentation is deadly. The most dangerous lie is the one that comes with pictures, because pictures feel like proof. And for years, the digital trail looked clean. Yoga mats in Toronto, lattes in snowy streets, soft focus selfies that whispered ordinary life. A perfectly curated illusion that said, I'm right here. Look, nothing to see. But the diary doesn't argue with aesthetics. It collides with them. According to the leaked prison writings, the strongest shield wasn't silence, it was scheduling. Posts banked in advance. Smiles uploaded days later. Snow posted while the sun burned Caribbean skin. The diary allegedly puts it bluntly, she posts winter when she is in heat. That's how the alibi worked, and that's how it breaks. Because when the alleged dates from the diary are laid beside the public timeline, something horrifying emerges by location. One woman appearing to exist in two places at once. A Toronto calf on Tuesday. A Caribbean landing Monday night. Not speculation, patterns. 48-hour disappearances. 72-hour silences. Then a sudden return with a generic quote. A recycled photo. A soft reset. Coincidence doesn't repeat itself that cleanly. The diary allegedly names the events behind those gaps. Yacht weeks, private dinners, auditions, and it names the escort, though not directly. A title, a role, the keeper, the man who moved between worlds, the man who ensured arrivals, the man who made sure assets didn't wander. According to the leak, the clubs weren't luxury hangouts, they were filters, places where girls were observed, refined, and assessed for something much darker than fame. The island wasn't a vacation, it was final selection. And here's where the story turns lethal. Because the diary doesn't portray confusion, it portrays understanding. Armed guards don't blend into sunsets. Underground tunnels don't go unnoticed. A temple on a private island isn't decor. You don't end up there by accident, not 12 times. The diary allegedly describes dinners that weren't loud or chaotic, but quiet, intellectual, strategic. The trap wasn't pleasure, it was validation. You mattered. You were listened to. You were being discovered. And in that environment, the diary claims one woman excelled. She holds the room. She mirrors. She adapts. That chameleon skill didn't come from acting school. It came from watching powerful men talk about themselves and becoming exactly what they wanted reflected back. That's why the diary doesn't frame her as naive. It frames her as effective. And then comes the click. The camera shutter, the sound that turns opportunity into ownership. This is where the alleged polaroids become everything, because digital denial collapses under analog proof. The diary claims 12 images exist, one per visit, stored not as backups but as insurance, the kind that survives raids, lawyers, and time. And the descriptions are precise. A terrace, a private cabin, a massage room, and in each image, the positioning matters. The posture, the role, not the girl in the corner, the woman in control. Especially one image the diary treats like a live wire, a private room, a royal figure, a towel, proximity that destroys plausible deniability. If that image ever surfaces, the damage wouldn't be reputational. It would be institutional, which explains the current silence. Why statements are delayed, why allies vanish, why distance replaces defense. Because silence isn't confusion. Silence is calculation. And while the photos threaten exposure, the diary delivers something even more dangerous. Money. Because money leaves scars. The diary allegedly outlines stipends, not payments for services, but support, image consulting, travel facilitation, wardrobe assistance, quiet funding designed to manufacture success before success existed. The math never worked. Cable TV money doesn't buy first-class lives. Middle-tier salaries don't finance elite access. But the diary alleges the difference was covered, routed through third parties, clubs, consulting invoices, clean on paper, dirty in origin. This reframes everything. The humanitarian trips, the glossy profiles, the PR machine that seemed to appear before relevance. Not self-made, seed-funded, an investment. And what was the return? According to the diary, the ultimate objective wasn't fame. It was royalty, which brings the story to its most devastating claim. Because the diary doesn't describe the prince as a husband. It describes him as a mark, angry, isolated, desperate to matter, hungry for purpose, the perfect target. The meeting wasn't chance. The chemistry wasn't magic. The romance wasn't spontaneous. It was deployment. Mirror his wounds, echo his fears, become his refuge, and once bonded, extract. That's why the diary allegedly labels the strategy with a chilling phrase, honeypot protocol. Not affection, not love. Operation. And now, years later, the operation collapses because diaries leak, because photos develop, because money trail surface, and because institutions move slowly, but they always move. The panic now isn't about spin, it's about containment. What can be isolated? Who can be separated? What can be saved? Because one figure in this story still matters to the crown, and one doesn't. Extraction plans don't come with emotion. They come with logistics, quiet flights, private calls, no press releases, just legal notices. And when the dust settles, there won't be a dramatic ending, just absence, a title quietly removed, a separation framed as private, a future rewritten without apology. Because institutions don't rage, they erase. And the diary, it doesn't need to shout. It already wrote the ending.